In 1969, Neville Goddard opened an old Bible and found something he hadn't seen in 40 years. 2 letters from his teacher Abdullah. Handwritten instructions Neville had kept since 1931. When he mentioned them in a lecture, he made a choice that changed everything. He told his audience the first portion was all very technical in Hebrew and wouldn't interest them. He skipped it, moved on. Nobody questioned it. But those technical instructions weren't just interesting. They were the missing piece that explains why Neville's techniques work brilliantly for some people and completely fail for others. I'm Ben Harris, and today I'm going to show you what that missing piece is, because you deserve to know why you might be doing everything right and still not seeing results. Think about this. Neville spent 5 years studying with Abdullah, 5 years learning Hebrew, Kabbalah, esoteric Bible interpretation. At the end, Abdullah gave him written instructions, important enough that Neville kept them in his Bible for 4 decades. In his conclusion, the technical parts wouldn't interest people. I don't think Neville was being dishonest, but I think he was wrong, because those technical parts, they're the operating system. What Neville taught publicly was just the application layer. You can use an app without understanding the operating system. Sometimes it works fine, but when it crashes, you have no idea how to fix it. You just keep clicking the same buttons, hoping for different results. That's most people trying Neville's techniques. And when it doesn't work, they assume they're doing something wrong, or that the whole thing is nonsense. But the problem isn't the technique. The problem is they're missing the foundation. So what was in those instructions? When you cross-reference what Neville described with traditional Kabbalistic training, a clear picture emerges. Abdullah taught him a complete system. The mystical meanings behind Hebrew letters, each letter considered a creative force, a building block of reality itself. The Sephirot, the architecture of how consciousness manifests into physical form. Esoteric Bible interpretation, reading scripture as a psychological manual where every character represents states of consciousness. And here's the big one, purification. In Hebrew, it's called tikkun. This is what explains everything. Here's what Neville never adequately addressed. If imagination creates reality, and you're imagining good things, why isn't your life good? If feeling is the secret, and you're generating positive feelings, why do negative circumstances keep showing up? The standard answer is you're not doing it right, not feeling it enough, not persisting. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes people do everything correctly and still get inconsistent results. Tikkun explains why. Before you can use your imagination to create effectively, you have to clean it up. Before you can use emotions to impress the subconscious, you have to purify them. Think of it like a musical instrument. You can know the song perfectly and have perfect technique, but if the instrument is out of tune, the music sounds wrong. Your imagination and emotions are instruments. For most people, they're significantly out of tune. Tikkun has 2 key layers. First, rectification of emotional traits. Say you're manifesting financial abundance. You visualize, feel wealthy, assume the wish fulfilled. But underneath, you have unexamined beliefs. Rich people are greedy. Money causes stress. You don't deserve abundance. These distortions don't disappear because you're visualizing. They run in the background, corrupting the signal, like interference on a radio transmission. Second, rectification of imagination itself. Most people's imagination isn't under their control. It's reactive, responding to fears, anxieties, external stimuli. You sit down to imagine your ideal life, but within seconds you're worrying about work, replaying arguments, or fantasizing about revenge. That's not a trained imagination. That's a wild imagination. And a wild imagination creates wild, unpredictable results. True control means holding a single image with a single feeling for extended periods without distraction. That's a skill, and Neville never explicitly taught how to develop it. In 1946, Israel Regardie, Aleister Crowley's personal secretary and one of the most respected occultists of the 20th century, analyzed Neville's work. He said Neville's system was the most evidently magical approach he'd encountered, but because it was so magical, it required systematic training Neville wasn't providing. The average person's mind was too prosaic and feelings too inhibited to use imagination the way Neville described. Neville heard this, never addressed it publicly, because he couldn't, not without restructuring his entire teaching. See, Neville chose accessibility over completeness. He wanted to reach as many people as possible with a message of hope. For some, that worked, people who were ready, whose instruments were already tuned. But for most people, they understood the concept intellectually, but couldn't execute it consistently. Without the purification framework, they had no way to diagnose what was wrong. Here's the practical application. Identify your emotional distortions around what you're manifesting. The deep programming, not surface level beliefs. Want a relationship? You say you deserve love. But deep down, maybe you believe love always leads to pain, or you'd have to give up freedom, or you're terrified of being truly seen. Those beliefs shape your reality more than any visualization. Transform distorted patterns. Don't just cover them up. Suppressed fear doesn't disappear. It goes underground and corrupts your manifestations. True transformation means sitting with the emotion fully, understanding its origin, allowing it to complete its cycle. This is the opposite of what manifestation teachers say. They tell you to avoid negative emotions, but that's bypassing, not healing. Remember Abdullah slamming the door in Neville's face when he wanted to discuss not having money for Barbados? Abdullah wasn't being cruel. He was refusing to let Neville indulge in the emotional pattern of lack. Most teachers today would validate your struggle and keep you locked in the very state you're trying to escape. Once emotional patterns are cleaner, imagination training becomes easier. Hold a single image with perfect clarity for increasing periods, 30 seconds, then minutes, not a whole movie. One image with complete sensory detail without wavering. When Neville said fall asleep and the wish fulfilled, he assumed you could do this. For untrained people, that's extremely difficult. Here's something you can use tonight. Take 10 minutes for an emotional inventory. Ask, what do I really believe about this desire? Not what you want to believe, what you actually believe when you're not trying to be positive. Write it down. Don't judge it. Then ask, where did this come from? Usually childhood, a comment from a parent, an experience that left a mark. Once you see the origin, the belief loses its grip. It's not truth. It's just a program installed when you were too young to say no. Do this daily for a few weeks. Watch your visualization practice transform. Watch manifestations reflect what you actually want instead of what you secretly fear. This is the work Neville didn't teach publicly. Not because he was hiding it, but because he thought people wouldn't be interested in technical Hebrew instructions. He was right. Most people just want results. That's why most people get inconsistent results. The ones willing to do deeper work, to clean the instrument before playing it, they experience what Neville talked about, the miraculous shifts, reality responding to consciousness. It's not magic, it's precision, removing interference, tuning the instrument so the music sounds like what you intended. Neville gave you the song, Abdullah gave him the tuning process, and now you have both. Start where you are. Do the emotional inventory. Train your imagination. Clean your instrument. Master the foundation first. Everything else follows. Neville gave you the song. Abdullah gave him the tuning process. Now you have both. If this changed how you think about manifestation, hit subscribe. We're diving deep into what actually makes this work. No fluff, just what you need to know. Drop a comment. What emotional distortion have you discovered in your own practice? I'm Ben Harris. See you in the next one.